Now we're recording. Given that we're recording today and trying to be secure with the technology, what I'm going to do is a PowerPoint that will, again, convey all the information we want to convey as opposed to being live online. And then at the end of the presentation, I will go back and look at the chat. So if you have questions as we go along, if you put them in the chat, and then we'll come back and look at that. And I think what I'm going to do is we're just going to dive right in to, I've got help here so I don't mess anything up. And oops, there we go. Okay, so again, today's presentation is an overview of resources, free resources available from the department through the California Career Resource Network program. And the webinar today also, we're going to include some thoughts and ideas about how to begin using various of the resources, and so there'll be kind of an overview and then some thoughts about how to get started. This webinar is one in a series of webinars being provided by the Career College Transition Division to support distance learning, particularly in career technical education. But the reality of the California Career Resource Network resources is that though they are freely available to any career technical educator, they're also available to any educator working with young people around career exploration and career planning. And so we're hopeful that once we have this recorded and available, if you come across this as a counselor, a teacher, paraprofessional in whatever fashion, you'll find some resources that are helpful to you. We're going to walk through, we have some resources that are particularly aimed at educators to help them use our other resources. We have some student web tools, some student mobile apps, and some hard copy guides that educators can use with students. This video is going to be available on the Department of Education YouTube channel. In fact, the Career Technical Education Distance Learning page is being updated, so it's going to include links to all, I think there's 9 videos, and have links to all the videos. I am also going to put it on the California Career Resource Network home site, which is this site here at californiacareers.info. There's one section in that top navigation where the arrow is, it says training videos. So our plan is to post this video, but also post a version of the PowerPoint, because I know often that's what folks are looking for to go back and capture some of the details. So that will be available there. I think I already mentioned, please use the chat box as I'm going along, and at the end we'll come back and see if there's questions I can answer. Also, if there's questions after this and you want to reach out to me, you can email me at jmerris, jmerris@cde.ca.gov. And also my email address is in a later slide, so I'll be sure and pause at the point when that should be available for you to see it. The final slide in today's presentation is really relevant to career technical educators. As we put together this series of webinars, we realize there may be some folks who are able to use this as as a professional development opportunity, and so the last slide actually has a certificate from the department to document that you survived the entire webinar and completed your participation. And so when we get to the end, I will leave that up for a bit so that you can take a screenshot of it. I guess that may complicate my getting to the chat page, because I can't leave the screenshot up in the chat, can I? We'll do it at the end. Okay. So, okay, just want to be sure. Okay.
You want to move the laptop?
Great.
Do you want to move the laptop over?
Maybe that would be helpful. Okay. We're flying by the seat of our pants just a little bit. So, I think that's all enough of a setup. What I want to do now is dive into giving you some idea of the free tools that are available to you. And we're going to start here on our homepage at californiacareers.info. Our homepage is really intended to be a resource for educators. There are links to all of our resources, all of our websites, all of our mobile apps, and also I want to highlight right now through the top navigation where you can see the arrow. There's one section with quick starts, which are in some cases a one-page quick activity for a student to start using, something like the CareerZone. There's also some workbooks in there. And first up, we're going to take a little look at our lesson plans. We are currently in the process of updating these, but right now we do have 45 lesson plans on the website that are available to you to, in part, help you begin using our resources through the Career Resource Network, but also links to other federally funded free resources and tools, Career One Stop, Occupational Outlook Handbook, so other tools that will be useful to you and students beginning now and well into the future. The 45 lessons are organized by grade, beginning in grade 5 through grade 12, but they're created to be kind of flexible across that grade span. We wanted to push the notion of beginning this work in elementary school. There really are things you can do in addition to career fairs and whatnot at the elementary level. But you can go in and just look through the lessons and see if there's a topic that looks helpful to you or useful to you, and just go ahead and grab it at whatever grade level you're at. As I mentioned, we're currently updating lessons and having to develop or update some of the Spanish handouts, but before too long, all of the lessons will be available in both Word and PDF, and all of the student handouts will be available in English and Spanish. We post all of the lessons in Word so that you can grab them and make use of a full lesson, a handout in a lesson, revise the lesson so it fits whatever your particular circumstance is. So we wanted it to be useful to you in that way. And all of our resources are intended to help guide that career development process of answering those questions you see on the screen, helping students look at who am I in relation to the world of work, where am I going in terms of an occupation that fits for me, how do I get there, what education and training do I need, and then what really core employability skills do I need. So those are all the lesson plans. One example from our Quick Start section is this Exploring Career Options workbook. We, over the years, have gotten some requests to have a hard copy introductory tool, either for settings maybe where they don't have the internet capacity, or for younger students that it's just helpful to have a handout. And so this hard copy PDF guide is posted in the Quick Starts on the section, and it walks through those same sets of questions where they're going to take an interest inventory, be able to look through a list of occupations that match the interests or maps interests and occupations, look at education and training options beginning in middle school to begin thinking about a career journey. And then looking at our own department standard for career ready practice as one baseline set of career ready skills, and then kind of create that initial career action plan. So that is just one example of a kind of a resource that's available on the Quick Starts page on our home site. So now I want to move into giving a little more background on resources that are intended for direct student use. As I mentioned already, the lesson plans we have, there's a number of lessons that will help you engage students in using the Career Center. There's a Quick Start activity to help a student engage in the Career Center. The Career Center, as it says there, is a virtual counselor. So when we created this a number of years ago, the idea was to provide information that a student might find by meeting with a counselor. So information about how to make that transition from middle to high school, or how to explore careers, or some basics on getting a job. So you can see the section that says content. So all of that is information. There's frequently asked questions that help guide them to some of those questions or some of that content. And that's a big chunk of this virtual counselor. But students can also establish a free My Stuff account. And what that enables them to do is to interact with the site. They can save information, content pages by bookmarking them as they come along. They can create there's a template for creating kind of a basic high school plan. But the two big pieces that I think can really be useful to students are the ability to create a career action plan, which is just our term for a post-secondary plan. And they can also now create resumes, a master job application, and business letters. So both of those features of the Career Center also have paired mobile applications. Those are actually going to be launched at any moment. So once we get going into the school year, I know all of these tools will be available, but a student can easily set up a free account and then just dive right in, and I'll go into a little more information on the correction plan later to provide a little more background on how to use that as a way to help students get started using the site. I do see there's a question came in about how to get a copy of the PowerPoint. Well, you can't email me, and so I'd be glad to send it to you, but I will, as I mentioned, be posting it on our CaliforniaCareers.info website paired with the training videos. So it takes I think sometimes a day or two to get the link for the video. So by next week, the PowerPoint will be posted online. But again, you can email me, and the email address is coming up in a later slide. Okay, I'll answer questions as we go along. How long are the accounts? The accounts never expire. So we actually have two websites with student accounts. Students can set them up at whatever point they set them up and keep them as long as they want to keep them, and as long as we're funded as a program. We are established in EdCode as a program to provide these resources. We're included in the State Budget Act. So, as we all know now, you never know what's going to happen. But the intention at this point is that once students set up an account, they can keep them. This is the landing page for the student account. They can get, as you can see, to the correction plan. Job Central is where there's resumes. Lessons, there's actually a lesson creator that you can assign lessons to students within the site. So these are all of the features that they can find within their account. Oh, and I should point out, so the box that says documents, that actually could serve as a digital portfolio. I don't know if it has enough capacity. Well, I do know that you can upload up to a 2 megabyte size document, as many of them as you want. But I know for arts or some other types of documents that may not be big enough. But anything up to a 2 megabyte document, students can upload as many documents as they want. So if they don't have a digital portfolio of any kind anywhere, especially one related to career decision making, they're certainly welcome to use this. I already mentioned, so both within the My Stuff student account, there are two features that are both online and mobile, and those, the mobile app and the web app are linked. So a student does need to log into both, but if they log into both with the same username and password, anything they do to create a resume or to create a post-secondary plan will show up in both places. And so they can do something on the fly or do it online at a desk. And again, I'm going to show you some thoughts on creating a correction plan a little bit later in the presentation. So all of that was the California Career Center Virtual Counselor website. I'm hopeful that, especially once you have access to the PowerPoints, and we do have a one-page handout that if you email me, I could send that also. We do have a number of websites and a number of mobile apps for a variety of good reasons. But sometimes I know it gets a little challenging to keep them all straight. So we have seen the two current student websites. We also have a standalone mobile application called Career Surfer. Career Surfer has an interest profiler that many of you are familiar with. We use that in one of our tools, but it's used by many. And so they can take the profiler. We updated the app this year so they can save the result and then explore occupations. It's text-to-speech enabled. They can search in all of those ways. So it just provides a little bit of a snapshot with the salary, a brief description. And so it's not super deep, but it really is intended to be a way to help students kind of dive in to the world of exploring careers. Okay. Oh, I see. And we're getting questions about what was I'll go ahead and back up just a little bit. So the first website we looked at was the California Career Center. You can see right there, the URL is calcareercenter.org. And again, the PowerPoint and the video will be posted next week, so you'll be able to refer back at that point if I get going a little bit too quick today. So that site is, again, a virtual counselor, heavy on the information, heavy on helping students create a post-secondary plan. Our longer serving and more heavily used website that is also really student focused and also has an account is the California CareerZone. That tends to be the resource that people are more familiar with. We've made it available since 2005, get millions of sessions on it a year. Students can set up a free account. In fact, we're actually revising it, so students need to set up an account. After many years of the notes from teachers and students about losing content on the site, shortly when they want to log in, they'll be told to set up an account. Free account never expires, and they'll be able to save their assessment results. They'll be able to bookmark occupations and post-secondary options that look interesting to them. So right now on the CareerZone, there are 4 assessments that they can take. Well, 3 that really get saved. So related to interests and values and skills, they can take create a budget. It's kind of a lifestyle budget. So by doing these various assessments and budgets, then the site puts that all together to say, here's occupations that match what you're interested in terms of interests and skills, as well as paying a salary that would support the lifestyle you're interested in. These are all of the occupations from the ONET system. I think most of the career information delivery systems you see are going to use ONET. So at this point, there's 967 occupations. We have them all organized under California's CTE industry sectors. So you can search on the page. I think that might be a later slide, but it's easy to find. It's one of the landing page options. And so students can go in and they can get an idea about occupations that are available in any of the industry sectors or in any of the career pathways within those sectors. The Career Hub is what we call the student account. Again, they can set that up at any time and keep it forever. They can search for internships, apprenticeships, jobs, again, almost 1,000 occupations. We make use of the U.S. Department of Education. Oh gosh, of course I'm going to blank on their database, but we have over 7,000 post-secondary opportunities listed within the site. So a student can go in, take a quick assessment, see occupations that match them, figure out what post-secondary opportunities are available to train for that occupation, and it's really very intuitive and easy to do. The site also has a free educator account, and I'm going to show you a little bit later about setting up the accounts. But in the free educator account, there's training modules that will help you use the site with students, explaining all of the assessments, the budgeting activity, and just a lot of great information about how to use the site. You do have the option of linking with a limited number of students and tracking their progress, creating reports about their progress, and assign lesson plans. Something else. Oh, and there's also some tutorial videos in there. So there's a lot available in the educator account, and I am going to look at that a little bit more in a moment. Okay, so I guess we're at that moment. Let me take a look. So there's a question about when the updated site will be ready. Momentarily, I'm told by the developer people. Well, and then there's a question if the assessment is comparable to the strong interest inventory. What we use is the federal ONET system has their interest profiler, which gives you a reassec code from John Holland's theory of matching interests and occupations. There's a 30 prompt version and a 60 prompt version that both have the same level of reliability and validity, where students use emojis to respond to questions about what interests them in the world of work. So I know that's actually, if any of you have ever seen me present before, that's probably a world record time to go quickly over some of the resources. But our hope today was to give you kind of an idea of what's available, show you where you can find out more, also give you follow-up contact information if you have other questions. And let me go ahead and pause now too. So and there was a question about whether these resources are available to adults. Yes, the tools are all available to adult users. Actually, the thing that's interest, so our Ed Code mandate is to serve all of California. And so our resources are used by EDD, they're used by everybody. The limitation comes in where we get a little more into K-12, including adult ed, is in terms of the educator accounts are really intended for the programs affiliated with the California Department of Ed. But anyone, anywhere can go in and set up a CareerZone account or a Career Center account and make use of the information. There's a note here about using the interest profiler at My Next Move. My Next Move is provided by the ONET system, so that's the exact 100% same interest profiler. What we've done in the CareerZone is tried to make it a little more visually appealing, user-friendly, so it's the exact same resource. So there are questions about whether there were links to videos in relation to the industry sectors. So the federal ONET folks, well, not just ONET, we actually have, I think they're closing in on 1,000 videos spread out throughout the site, linked to all of the occupational profiles. So I actually don't think we have videos generally about an industry sector, but for occupations within those sectors and pathways, there would be videos specific to all of those occupations. Let's see what else. Oh, and the question about, so yes, the question about not having internet access. So the very first workbook that I pointed out, the Exploring Career Options, that the reason we created that was to have a hard copy resource available to students who didn't have internet. It's about 30 pages, so it does require some printing by somebody. We don't have hard copies available, we just don't have the funding. But that is, and in fact, that's going to launch me into this, or getting started on how to get started. So back when we began this webinar journey together, I pointed out that we have a set of lesson plans posted online, and I commented that there were 45 lessons. We actually now have 47 lessons. What we were able to do early in the pandemic is modify one lesson and create a brand new one to create lessons that are more easily aligned with the requirements of distance learning. So as we've been working on all of our lessons and updating them, we've had awareness of greater demand for distance learning focus. So there are tweaks in all of the lessons, but we have 2 lessons that were specifically intended to be readily available and used in a distance learning environment. And we began by creating one with an online activity and one with an offline activity. And so the online activity, matching interests and careers, is a lesson that makes use of the California CareerZone. And again, it's in the lessons section of our website, spells out everything that's needed. I think what we found with moving, because we've got some other lessons in the pipeline, what we found by moving our lessons from regular to distance learning was we put a little more focus on trying to create something more along the lines of a student workbook for every lesson, so that it would be easier to give the student kind of everything in a piece, and then they could work through whatever the activities are. So again here, this one, and the top page of the lesson plan site, the online is CareerZone, and the offline activity is just walking through how to make use of the Exploring Career Options hard copy PDF guide, and that is currently available on the site. Let's see. Oh, as you can imagine, I've been kind of madly putting together a variety of presentations, so I did put in a screenshot of our lesson plan page. So when you go back to our home site at californiacareers.info, the top navigation, one option as it shows here is lesson plans. If you select that, what you'll see at the very top of the page are these initial couple of distance learning lessons we've posted. We've got, I think, about 8 more kind of in the works, and those will be posted. If you continue down the page, there's more background lesson information on how the lessons are created, glossaries, and then all of the lessons that have been created are all posted at this point of the website. Okay, so that was a thought about how to start with lesson plans. And thank you, Salvador, for putting URLs in the chat. I had actually thought I could do that before we started and then didn't. So if you're paying attention as you go along, appreciate questions and notes, and again oh, no one can see the chat. Well, that's interesting. Thanks, Jewel. Okay, so I am still learning as we go. I guess that's maybe one function of how this all works. Yeah, so now I hear, I can see the chat, but you can't see the chat. But what happened is this URL was just posted, but you can see it right there on the screen, so I will actually leave it there while I describe what this project is going to be. So one way to start using the California Career Center with students is to engage them in creating a career action plan. What that requires is that they set up a My Stuff student account online. I think my next slide is a little more information on that. Yes. So that would require them to set up a My Stuff student account. Again, an account that never expires. They can use it for as long as they want. We would ask them, you could have them also download the My Stuff Correction Plan mobile app. It's both Apple and Android. They would log in to the online account and create and submit a plan to you. So on the website, I'm going to show you, there are detailed directions. So you could actually, if you have self-directed students, it's possible for them just to go in and dive into the site and begin creating a career action plan based on information that is available in the site. So this is what I showed you earlier, the landing page. So when a student decides to set up a career action plan, they'll be prompted, if they click on career action plan without having an account, they'll just be prompted to set up an account. Very minimal, normal information you expect to see. You kind of wonder why they're there. And then they would get launched into creating this career action plan. So what they'll see initially, there's 11 elements of the plan where they begin by exploring occupations and then choosing an occupation in particular to research, figuring out the requirements, figuring out how they can get educated or trained in those requirements. And there's, after they've created that, there's an option to download it either as a Word document or a PDF so that they can share it with you. After they've logged in, if you're on this page and you click on the directions button, there'll be a drop-down complete directions for how to do every one of the sections of the site. And again, just the capacity of the app is less. There's kind of little prompts for the mobile app, but the website has the full and complete directions for a student to complete, create a complete correction plan. They can go back, revise, edit, update, add, subtract as often as they want, download as often as they want. And again, this could be something that a student could begin creating even in middle school, revise in high school, continue revising in college as they're sorting things out and narrowing things down. And I think it just helps them kind of think about that process of understanding themselves in relation to the labor market. And in particular, our hope is by doing an activity like this, they can make good decisions or thoughtful decisions about programs to pursue in high school, but also maybe more importantly, make a thoughtful decision about what to do after high school. They're going to get a 4-year degree, great. Why? What are they going to do with it? Why do they want to pursue it? Do they need a 4-year degree, a 2-year certificate? So we're hopeful that we can help students think about life after high school, think about taking advantage of what's going on in high school, and have some kind of a plan to help them move forward. And then the question, can they research more than 2 occupations? Oh yeah. So there's 967 occupations in the career zone. So we simply, for the purpose of trying to help narrow things down, And if you choose to use this plan with your students, you can frame it any way you want. In my head, I like it if kids come up with 50 ideas, just to get this notion that there's a lot of things they could do. But at some point, they need to narrow it down a little bit to research a particular occupation. If they get along and decide they don't want to do that, they can go back and begin with another occupation. So there's no limit to how many occupations they could research. So yeah. Okay, so that's a thought for a way to begin working with students in the California Career Center and creating a pretty comprehensive, thoughtful post-secondary plan. The last resource I want to touch on as a good one and a good way to start would be to have them start doing something with the California CareerZone. Now, you've noticed that our resources do, just because of how they've been developed over the years and how they're supported now, we have multiple websites instead of one all-in-one, all-encompassing, mind-numbing website. But I've made peace with that because I think all-encompassing, overwhelming, mind-numbing resources often try to do too much. So our approach that we claim now is something like the Career Center is a great resource for information, and the focus there is on creating a plan and using the app and creating a resume, and the plan actually makes use of the CareerZone. So we do have interaction between the sites, they just don't merge. So if you wanted to just jump into using the CareerZone, one suggestion would be to have a student complete a career exploration project. So what that would involve is initially an educator set up your free educator account so that you can access the professional development modules. They're brief text-based modules that just describe all of the many elements of the site and how to use them with students, and just to help to give you that head start. Then you could have your students set up a student account. The most commonly used assessment is the interest profiler, followed by the make money choices. And as soon as a student completes both of those, any other work they do on the site that generates a list of occupations will show them if it matches their interest as well as pays the salary they're interested in. So it's kind of it's really a seamless, easy way to see occupations that match interest, skills, abilities, financial goals. So in this case, they would explore occupations that match interests and lifestyles, and then they could submit a summary report. The site generates a report, looks at all of their assessment results, look at occupations that match either 1, 2, or 3 of the assessments, however many they did. They can do journal reports, and they can download that as a PDF to share with you. So when you go to the California CareerZone website, you'll see on the homepage this option to register for an account. So a note both for students and educators. When you enter in to register now, the initial account setup is very similar for whether you're a student or an educator. The difference will be when you asked, when there's, I can't remember the particular question, but basically you're going to be asked if you're a student, if you're a teacher, if you're a counselor. And so if you go in, it's very helpful to use a school domain. So when you enter in that you're an educator and use your school domain in the basic account setup, you'll get a prompt suggesting that you set up the educator account. So there's really a two-step to get into the educator account, whereas a student can just go in and set up the one account right away. It's immediate. As soon as they set it up, it's available to them. And again, as long as we exist and the site exists, they can keep it and they can use it. And you're welcome to use this with all of your students or family or whoever. Let's see. I'm going to come back to those questions in a moment. So the educator account, in this case, I've set up a kind of a draft educator account that, last minute editing, took away a piece. So the educator account, it allows you to, you can manage students. That's an element that's been cut off at the top of the screen. You can manage lessons, but even more importantly, you'll see where it says John's stuff. You as an educator would come in and you would get a prompt to begin doing either the professional development modules to help get a handle on the site, or to suggest that you begin working with managing your students. The limitation on the site is because this is statewide and because of our own capacity limitations, the free account is limited to 50 students per educator, which I know creates complications for folks with more than that. Sometimes if you explain your situation when you request the educator account, there's a text box that you can say what it is you're trying to do. And then if you decide to start managing students, where it says your educator code, what you would have a student do is they set up their account, they would enter your code in on their account, and then you'd be able to link, create reports. If a student graduates, you'd be able to take them off of your monitoring. It wouldn't impact their account at all. So if they agree to let you see what they're doing for the time that's available, you can see, and then when you disconnect, they just carry on their merry way. It has no impact on their site. So this is the CareerZone educator account. Looking very similar, you can see, is the student account. So what I want to highlight here is both the summary report with the arrow and the I want to is how you get to information, and where it says show your progress, that would be where a student would enter in the code to connect them to a teacher. So if they select I want to, you can see that they can get to any of the assessments or journals. They actually can create a resume and some cover letters, a reference list, a variety of things in the site. So they would just select initially interest profile or complete it, and then it would be saved in their account. Then after, if they choose the summary report to share it with you, you can see that all of those options under the to do an assessment or create a plan, they can have all of that show up on a summary report. You can see the assessment results for the interest profiler. Again, it would show a list of occupations that match their assessment results, and where it says print, that generates a PDF. So there is, as I noted, a limitation on the number of students you can actively manage, but a way to kind of work around that and keep in touch with the student is a student at any point can download a PDF of their summary report and share that with you. So that's what's available right now. Okay, so I'm going to leave that up for a moment, and then I'm going to get to the other certificate slide. So this has, again, my contact information. As many of you have been, I'm not in the office all the time, and so I have to try to remember to answer the phone, but I'm always on email. So if you have any questions after this, want any follow-up on anything, just email me, and then if we need to talk, we can make any of that happen. Let's see. A good question about labor market trends. So the question is, are these resources able to take into account the current labor market trends starting to present as a result of COVID? Kind of. We rely on the Federal Department of Labor, so you can decide if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The Federal Department of Labor, their project is the ONET system, where they provide information on the 967 occupations. So as often as they update their profiles, we update our information online. Now, the good news is, and so there is some limited information, and again, I think more will be forthcoming. The good news is, for a lot of this work, the skill sets that's needed, that we need to be talking to kids about, the skills are still the same. I mean, they still need to know how to be critical thinkers, problem solving, how to work with teams, how to use technology. So in some ways, even though COVID may have emphasized the technology end of things, most of the skills we've been talking about for a long time, team player, self-responsible, all of that still is in effect. And I actually haven't seen anything from the Department of Labor about their thinking about updating and information that that will be COVID related. I do know that the Bureau of Labor Statistics sends out regular updates, and they've had some information about COVID that we can't just grab and put into our system, but I'd be glad to I should put a link to that. Thinking out loud, I should put a link to that someplace. So sometimes the Bureau of Labor Statistics has been coming out with some reports related to jobs and COVID. And in fact, there was a report this week about jobs that are fast growing, large number of jobs, well paying in the time of COVID. So if you email me and ask for the how to sign up for that newsletter, I'd be glad to tell you. So I didn't think of that beforehand. And the question was, does the CareerZone ONET have the same career interest survey? Yes. So the CareerZone, the interest profiler, the skills profiler, the work values profiler are all directly from ONET. ONET makes those available for free to anybody who wants to use them, and all we've done is formatted them a little bit more so they fit in with the look of the CareerZone. But it's the exact same assessments, it's all the same occupations. We have more California-specific information as students go through the site, but the assessment side, that is all from ONET. So good question. Are the resumes that are posted on CareerZone seen by a potential employer? Not at this point, but the Career Central, if a student creates a resume through the Career Center Job Central, that resume can be posted online. So they have the option when they build a resume to download it as a PDF or publish it, which would then be seen. The site generates a unique URL, which just has random numbers, but then they can change the tag to put whatever they want, so it can show their name, and then they can publish. And again, that's through the Job Central Resume Creator as part of the California Career Center. And so that can be published. I'm not sure. We actually have a statewide subscription with the CareerZone, and I actually haven't talked to them recently about whether that resume is something that could be published. So I will look into that. But I do know for sure the resume that you can create through the California Career Center is publishable online. And Nicole, you're forgiven for being late. So next week, the video and the PowerPoint will be posted on our website, but you could also just email me at that email address, and I would be glad to send you the slides. Question about the resources, in particular, the skills profiler, a good fit for individuals without great awareness. I can tell you this, the interest profiler is well regarded, well used, easily understood. The skills profiler, I know it's on the to-do list for the CareerZone developers to make it more user-friendly. It is not the easiest tool to use. And so again, the make money choices budgeting activity is very clear and simple. The interest profiler is very clear and simple. The work values and the skills are just a little more complicated, but they're what's available from ONET, so we're trying to make use of them. Oh, hey, Kathy says I'm a rock star. Thanks. So the question about the format for the resume, can it be converted to Word? No, the way that platform had to work, so the question was, can the resume be converted into Word format? So the resume that is developed inside the California Career Center Resume Creator can either only be downloaded as a PDF or published online. Just the workings of the site and the programming didn't allow, but I don't know. I haven't tried using Adobe to see what would happen to try to convert that PDF into a Word document. That is a possibility, but the site just now it does the publishable and the PDF. Oh, okay. Hi, Bridget. So I mentioned the Bureau of Labor Statistics newsletter. That's from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So it just came up in the context of COVID occupations. And so if you email me, Bridget, to remind you, I can send you the address for that. And then the question, is it possible to start with an offline resource and then transition into online? Well, certainly. Yeah, and I think blanking right now, but I'm pretty sure at the end of the Exploring Career Options PDF hard copy intro to career exploration guide, I think we put a page with resources. So a student is doing kind of a simplified version of the interest profiler to come up with a Holland and Riasek code. So they could actually just, if they've done what they can do with the hard copy guide, they could very easily go to the CareerZone and use the interest assessments there. And so yeah, it'd be a really easy transition. Then, so I'm going to just give you this little heads up, and then I'm going to go to the certificate. So just a reminder, so there's a variety of these webinars coming up. I think there's about 9 of them. I just saw an update of the department's CTE distance learning page, and that is going to include a listing of all of those webinars with a link to the recording after they're completed, a link to being able to register if they have not been completed yet. If hopefully everyone here, you probably found out about it because of our email, our newsletter that's going out. But if you're not getting the CTE newsletter from the Department of Ed, you subscribe in that way. Also, our friends Jewel and others at San Diego County Office of Ed are doing a virtual Career Pathways conference. Hey Jewel, could you throw a note up here? I'm pretty sure it was free for San Diego County and a small cost if you're out of San Diego County, if you want me to tell them that. But if you go to the link, I think it's pretty clear what's on the link. Association for Career Technical Education has some great CTE resources. If you're a CTE teacher and watching this and you're not using CTE online, it's really worth going and taking a look. They've done a reworking of the site. They've posted more distance learning related lessons. They've got links to other resources. And so there's a lot of good to be had for the with CTE online. So there's a certificate. So somebody in our group came up with this idea that said, okay, so there it is. So given kind of some of our lack of capacity to get PowerPoints out right away to everybody, feel free to take a screenshot of that to document your participation. So right now could I provide a link to the PowerPoint in the chat? So one thing is I've been told nobody can see the chat, so but there isn't a link. So what's going to happen is the PowerPoint, again, you can email me at that email address, I hope I left out long enough, and ask for it, or it will be posted on our home website at californiacareers.info. I'm anticipating sometime next week. We've got a holiday Monday. I have to wait for the link. I need my technical person to do that for me because I'm not capable. And then it will be available. So Jill says if I can make her questions public, Jill's showing me up that it says here all panelists and attendees are seeing this. Okay, so my thought is hopefully you've sent me a note if you didn't have a time for this. So here is, I think, the key page for follow-up from today. So if you have any questions that didn't get answered, or there were some links maybe that didn't happen, please, you can email me at that email address. That's better than the phone at this point, but we can figure out a phone call later. This video and the PowerPoint I'll have posted next week on our home site at californiacareers.info under training videos. And then all of these videos Boy, did we put the, so Allison, I saw you're there, so we need to add the link to the CTE distance learning page, because all of the recordings will be posted there. Hi, Karen. Oh, back to the certificate. I've been told the ASL person, apparently we had a miscommunication, so this didn't get the ASL. So I want everyone to know that the video will be captioned and posted on the CDE YouTube channel. Oh. Allison, you should have said first, don't say anything about the ASL person not being here. So I've just discovered this one again isn't ASL, but we will have a captioned video posted on the department's CDE YouTube channel. Jewel says the virtual conference is free for San Diego County, $30 early bird for others. And again, do the certificate, email me if there's any follow-up questions. Oh, I see. Okay. Now I'm getting confusing notes. So I think, unless there's any last questions, oh, this was a request for the listserv slide. So there's how you sign up for the listserv if you're not doing that yet. Also the San Diego County Office of Ed conference. And I think I've answered the questions. I do see Christie's note, so we'll have to figure out that situation. And again, the name of the website, so there's a number of websites. Our home website is that one right there. So from californiacareers.info, you have access to the lesson plans, the quick starts, training videos, links to all of our other websites and mobile resources. So that's a great place to start. So I think that looks like all of the questions. I appreciate all of you joining in, and seriously, I am on email all day, every day, and I do respond, and so if you have a question or need something, but know that we will be getting the video and the PowerPoint posted and shared, and so it will be available. I appreciate all of you joining in, and thank you for all of your doing, all of the adjusting you've been having to do. I've had a lot of conversations with my son, the special ed teacher, so I know his side of what's going on. And I know it's been a challenging time, but we're hopeful that having resources like this and these webinars can provide some support to you all. So hang in there. Again, appreciate the work you're doing. And someday we will see you all again at a live event. Take care. Now you're going to watch me, let's see, stop that. I'm going to turn the camera off and mute myself. Take care, everybody.